All right, hello everyone, and welcome. It is Tuesday, January 23rd, and we are starting out our final week here, and we are at the home stretch of the class. We are going to be doing our last round of peer review today, and then we will start discussing the new assignments for week 4. Week 4 does lighten up a bit in the course load as there is no new composition because we don't have a week 5 to do peer review. So we're rounding out all of the projects that you have. You will be capturing the final version of your game now that you've got your music and your sound effects implemented into Wise. You've got everything up and running. You can do a demonstration of it. And so one of your assignments this week is taking the work that you've done, both the music, the sound design, and getting it working in the game. You are going to create a final video capture so that you have something to show off, add to your demo reel or portfolio, and be an added resource that you can show off your music working in a game, or well, now 2 game projects. So you have the final video captures, and you also have 2 what are known as composition descriptions. They are 10-question tests on FSO, and they're not like a traditional test that you study for because you already have all of the answers. It is a summary of your compositions, both for 2D platformer and Angry Bots. Sort of a post-mortem summary of different aspects of the composition and the production of the music for the games. And it basically is an overview and kind of a final summary of everything working together. So we will discuss your new assignments for this week. If you are having any issues from Wise, if you haven't reached out to me already, please do. And if you have any issues from the class, this is certainly the week to take care of all of that stuff, to resolve anything and everything before the end of the month. So that is our kind of focus in this last week, and so we'll start out with some peer review now and then move on to the new assignments for this week. So last week you were working in Wise, and you also had a composition, a chiptune composition that was utilizing the restrictions of the original Nintendo system. And we have 2 submissions here to take a listen to. So the purpose of the class as a whole is to really introduce you to this side of the industry, to show you what a project is like, to the sort of skills that are required, and what the workflow and the process is like to get your music working in the game. And for most of the class, we are certainly discussing it from the point of view or in the context of modern production, modern games with all of the technology that brings, production of music using modern DAWs and production tools. And rightfully so, we are looking at the industry as it is now and moving forward. And so to give you a sense of where we are at now, we had a composition that was utilizing the restrictions all the way back to the original Nintendo system. And you were provided with an EXS24 session that contained sound banks that had sounds and samples and waveforms really, sampled from the original Nintendo and Famicom system, which was the Japanese release of the Nintendo. And the focus of the assignment was composing within the restrictions of the technical limitations of the original Nintendo Entertainment System. And some of those restrictions and kind of the focus of the composition is the original Nintendo system had four basic waveforms to work with as the primary sound generators. But there still was a fifth sample channel, but it was a very early implementation of sampled audio for games. And a vast majority of the music was done with these basic four channels, which was two square waves, typically as the melody and harmony, triangle wave for the bass, and a noise generator for all of the drums. And so you were provided with this sound set. Given the restriction of 4 simultaneous voices, you can have as many tracks as you need in the session, as long as there are only 4 sounds playing simultaneously or at any one time. Other restrictions are you have to have drums, you have to have percussion, you have to have a lead melody. So typical arrangements would be melody, harmony, bass drums, melody, bass drums, or melody, counter melody, bass and drums, or melody and drums and, I don't know, bass and bass, or harmony and harmony, or those sort of elements to it. So you had to use the sounds that were provided, no more than 4 voices at any one time. It's just a linear composition, no looping, no interactivity, nothing like that. And there also needs to be a change in the lead instrument at some point, because while you could only have 4 simultaneous voices, they could switch the lead instrument very frequently, and often did that to create the sort of sensation that there was many more different instruments playing in the composition. So beyond that, I find that these compositions, musically and melodically, are often quite good and have a lot of harmonic movement and melodic development through them. Where honestly, when I started out the assignment, I was a little bit hesitant as to the overall quality of the tracks, and as a portfolio or a demo piece to show off, because the bass sounds are so limited that it could really end up sounding quite bad and cheesy overall. However, what I have found over time doing this assignment is that since the sounds are so limited and there's restrictions to the composition, or restrictions to the form of the composition, the actual composition flourishes. The stronger melodies develop. You can't hide behind a whole lot of production techniques or like amazing sounding synths and sample libraries. Everything is just boop, 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 with very easy, simple sounds. I find faster paces, faster tempos, and more staccato instrumentation or performance means that you don't sustain on a note too long, and there's not a lot of time for it to get boring or stale as the sound. So a lot more, again, melodic movement, harmonic development, those sorts of things will create overall good compositions. And so, one thing that I often suggest, a good demo to bring this even further, is you create a composition as you have with these limitations, and then you do a fully orchestrated version or variation of the themes that you introduced in this version. So it sort of shows the spectrum of your skill and capability, where if you were limited all the way down to 4 channels with very simple waveforms, you could still bring across strong melodic and thematic ideas that could then also be transitioned all the way up to sort of endless scale and resources. If I had all of the time and money and budget in the world, wow, this is what could happen. And if even with a whole lot of restrictions placed on the composition, we can still get across the strong melodic and thematic ideas. So there's some useful ways, and otherwise it's just often an enjoyable composition, and more material to be adding to a portfolio. So let's go ahead and take a listen to both of these as I get myself untangled here. Let's see if there's anything else that I need to mention. I think those are as a kind of intro to it. Maybe there'll be some more things that we find. Let's go ahead and start here. Cool. All right. There's a lot of good stuff going on in there. So let me point out a few things. It was a little hesitant as it had a slower startup, but really gets into the groove there. And then you have a good solid tempo all the way throughout. Through this section, I was really noticing the bass line and some good solid movement there. And then the kind of separate movement of the melody and the sort of counter melody supporting right along with it. And then I like the change to the rhythm that comes up here in a bit. There's a nice little section right through here, I think. Let's see, where did we... All right, so here's the nice rhythmic change there. It definitely gives a different feel, so maybe this was the kind of exploration section. This could be more of the action. This little part right here, I think that could be extended out, because that's almost like very typical of, oh no, you're in danger, or time's running out. This right here. And so to go through sort of, especially with something as melodic and as linear as this, to go through different emotional states that would need to be matched in the game. So there's a little bit of a couple of bars of stealth, and a couple of bars of action, and a couple of bars of, oh no, danger, and then, oh no, heroicism, and hey, you're winning, and those kind of changes will definitely keep something from getting repetitive, and gives a real sense of what the music is used for. Other things here, I like the change to the lead tone, very natural. Rhythm switches back to the original theme, or the original rhythm. And then a solid, and then there was some parallel movement of the lead and the harmony. Let's see, where was that? Not there. All right. Is this? Anyway, I heard a section of good kind of parallel movement, where one very common technique in this sort of music is you'll hear parallel thirds moving around with the two, the melody and the harmony. So that works out very well. Right up to here. I've gone and lost it. Well, whatever. Then the only other thing that I might point out is this kind of intro. Even though it's just a couple of bars, I often suggest in a portfolio piece to hit them from the very beginning with some of the best stuff, because you don't know how quickly somebody is flipping through this stuff. I mean, if this is in a pile of tracks or in a huge playlist that they're listening to, you want to smack them across the face, and you don't want to from the beginning, and you don't want to take even a short amount of time to build up. It's a little bit different in a kind of demo portfolio piece than you would in a traditional composition, where there's the sort of introduction and form and rise and fall of the composition. So just something, typically instead of build up, what common form is introduction, build up, kind of breakdown, rise up, and then end. But with the portfolio piece, I typically want to be like as big and strong right in the beginning, really ear-catching from the start, and then it kind of dips down, and then it might come back up and then end. I mean, those are just kind of form suggestions overall. All right, so great stuff there. Everything works. Everything sounds like it fits within the restrictions of the piece. Let's try the next one. All right. Works out very well. I like the kind of groove and changes and the bringing the instruments out and back in. One thing that I'm listening for and kind of feel like I'm missing, except for other parts, is having all four layers playing together. And I understand that you kind of break it down to less instruments and kind of build it back up. But I hear pretty strong and pretty easily, I hear drums, bass, and melody. And the kind of harmonic layer comes in as a double at certain times. But it should probably be there in other sections to support and kind of fill that gap. So let me point out what I'm talking about here. Come on. Stop Logic. There we go. Okay. So from the beginning, you can hear the drums, the bass, the harmony is kind of creeping up and kind of oscillating back and forth through the scale, and you've got the kind of the lead groove established by the melody. And it drops out here. So you got the melody, the kick, and then the bass comes back in. But at this point, I feel like I'm missing that harmony somewhere. Returns a bit here. But even then, now, at this point, I really was noticing the double. It comes in a lot louder. It kind of parallels the lead line. but it felt a little thin through this area. And now that I hear it again, I can identify it a little bit, but it's such a strong change going into this section. It kind of makes this part feel a little bit more sparse. So I don't know if it's adding just kind of a denser structure, just more notes in the harmony, or bringing the volume up, or but that's something that stuck out to me. So the good solid change here. Then the other thing would be to move away, kind of, and then you got the change to the lead line there, moving up kind of to a different octave. The main thing would be getting away from the rhythmic groove of that kind of the repeating form there. So that at some point maybe you go into a double time feel or a half time feel, maybe not all the instruments, but kind of changing up that groove a little bit will create a nice progression through there, because what you're doing with all of the layers and kind of bringing them in and out works, and at different times they're in different combinations, but you still are hearing or feeling the underlying groove in each one of those changes. So yeah, just something to work out. The other thing would be adding in kind of the builds and the builds and falls, rises and falls in the composition, sort of like what we had over here. Things are coming in and out, but the groove is and the intensity of things are relatively constant all the way through. So I think those are two good examples. They fit the base requirements of the assignment of having changes in there, having rhythm and melody, you only utilizing the provided sounds, using 4 layers. I check screenshots for that. I just go look at your screenshots, just see how you set everything up. And yeah, but at least just listening to it, they sound like they fit just fine with what is required for these compositions. So they gives you another good piece to work off of. Again, taking this and expanding it further into a fully orchestrated piece is another step to develop these compositions. But hopefully it gives you a sense of what some of the restrictions provide. Number one, there are restrictions. You can only use so many instruments. You can the sounds are limited overall, especially compared to modern DAWs and synths and sample libraries. But the restrictions also do provide some good elements. Number one, you don't get lost in a million different sounds. I often find just setting up and getting ideas going and getting instruments chosen and presets and tweaking presets and getting a basic mix happening. I mean, just the startup can be quite a process. So if we take a lot of that out and we say, you only have 4 channels and you only can use these instruments, a lot of those decisions are made for you when you get directly into the composition. And then, yeah, the restrictions of the sounds and the number of tracks forces stronger composition. You can't rely on production techniques to hide lackluster composition. It really kind of sticks out and pokes through. So the restrictions can also provide some benefits to the composition overall. All right, so yeah, a great way to wrap up the peer review. If you have any questions, please contact me. Certainly as we are wrapping up this month, if you have any questions about the assignments or any other aspects of the class, please let me know. But right now we will turn it over to the archive, which will discuss the new assignments for week 4. All right, thank you very much. So let's talk about the new assignments for week 4. And just point out a few things. All right, so actually, let let me do this. Let me open up. Let me go on FSO. And load up week 4 here. There we go. Week 4. All right, so we have final game captures. Share your final game project captures. The virtual classes, and these composition description assignments. And the week 4 suggested reading and viewing. So, for your final game captures, you will be creating a capture of both 2D platformer and Angry Bots. This assignment is 0 weighted, but that doesn't mean that you're not doing the assignment because you're actually turning them in. Here's your video capture to your first question of the composition description. So while this is 0 weighted because you're not actually turning it in here, but this just gives you all the steps to get it accomplished. You'll be turning it in with your final composition description. So a video capture is going to be very important and kind of handy to you when showing off your work. The entire purpose of working on these projects was really to build more material for your demo reel and portfolio. And so having a video to show your music working in the game is going to be the best way to demo it. You have the game applications. Once everything is up and working with Wise, you have the games. They are yours to show off and to distribute. But there's some technical roadblocks when working with the actual game application. Number one, it's a Mac application, so whoever's checking it out has to have a Mac in order to run the application. They have to have a Mac that's strong enough to run the game, which is probably not an issue. They're not really all that powerful of a game that they would need a powerful computer. A lot of very smart people don't like to download files from the internet and run them on their computer. That's probably the biggest one. You can load it up to Dropbox or Google Drive and share it around. You can host it on your website. But a lot of folks don't like to download random applications off the internet and run them on their computer. But those folks don't have any issue with clicking on a link and watching a video that's provided through YouTube or something like that. So it's basically an ease of use issue. Another aspect is there's no guarantee that these games are going to work a day or a week or a month or years from now, mainly because Apple is notorious for updating their operating systems, and software gets kind of left in the dust, and so older software might not be supported by future operating systems. So there's no guarantee how long that will last, but a video will. A video will probably be able to be played for a long time coming, and more than likely YouTube's going to be around for a little while, and having the ability to quickly stream videos is a really kind of a easy feature on the internet. Everybody's lazy on the internet. You can kind of assume that, and all they are interested in is clicking a link and watching a video. So some of the other reasons is with the video, you also give them a guided tour of your game. It's you playing the game. They don't have to actually be any good at video games. You show them exactly the music and sound that you want to show them. They don't get lost in the game. They don't hate your music because they hate the game, or maybe they love the music because they love the game. That's an okay reaction, but you don't want them to hate the music because they don't like playing the game. So there's a couple of different roadblocks, whether it's technical roadblocks or just enjoyment of the game, that you want to be able to create a nice video representation of your work. Then, once they watch the video, they might feel more comfortable with downloading the game if they want to check it out a little bit closer. So, it's the main focus with these video captures is to not only show them off to the rest of the class, but also to have them for your portfolio, your demo reel, and just add more material overall. So, with this assignment, you get a PDF that goes through step by step of how to set up this video capture. And that looks like this. So there's the actual PDF to, oops, that's not correct. Hold on. I also should announce I have made updated changes, very small changes to a lot of just the naming of stuff in the assignment. So you might want to just go download an updated version of this. So here we go. Week 4 final game captures. That is a PDF, just an overview of the assignment. But this workflow PDF goes through everything step by step. So I'm assuming that you have used QuickTime to do some video capture previously, whether it's capturing your camera, whether it's capturing something on your screen. At some point in a previous class, you have used QuickTime to capture the video. That's fine, but we also want to capture the audio. And QuickTime, by default, has no options to capture audio inside of your computer. For all sorts of copyright reasons, they don't want to give people access to recording anything and everything inside your computer. So you have to find other ways of doing it. We are going to use a program called Loopback. Loopback, it is our audio. It is audio if. It is audio recreated, so it is ours. So we are able to capture it and be able to show it off. Here in the chat, will we lose points if we use week 2 instead of week 1 in the title, since you have it in different in 2 places? No. I've since updated those things, and so I understand that that the naming structure might be a little bit different. So using QuickTime, using Loopback. And the PDF goes through step by step on how things are set up. So you will install Loopback. You can get it at this location. There are other programs out there. Maybe you've used Soundflower before to capture things. Soundflower was very popular on the Mac. It's kind of getting out of date overall. It's not functioning, again, with the new operating systems from Mac. These guys used to make Soundflower for a little while and then made their own version called Loopback. And basically, it's a virtual audio cable. It goes out of one application into another application, just in the same way that you would go out of a guitar into a guitar amp or out of a microphone into a microphone preamp. It just goes out of one application into another. There is a purchased version for $99. You do not need that version. Well, maybe you do. I don't know. Maybe in your own personal use on the computer. But for the purposes of this project, you do not need the full version. You can get the free download. The only limitation there is it starts playing white noise after 15 minutes. So if you need more than 15 minutes to do the video, well, your videos, number one, shouldn't be 15 minutes long, but just getting it set up, if you need more than that, you can shut down the application and launch it again, and you get another 15 minutes. So download that. And when you install it, it looks like this. Maybe. There it is. Well, actually, yours would look like this. So, and this allows you to create a virtual audio cable. Or it actually creates a new audio device in your computer. Right? If I went to audio MIDI setup. it actually creates another interface. And you choose the audio application that you want to record. So I can just go to Angry Bots here and record this. You do not want to mute anything. And you can try checking this box in order to be able to hear what you're actually recording. Then once that is set up, the other thing to notice is that in QuickTime, when you do a new recording, you can select the input, and you now have loopback audio as an input into QuickTime. So this allows you to play out of the game and into QuickTime. It takes you through the steps and getting it all set up. Then you launch QuickTime. You do a new screen recording to capture your screen. You set up the options. You select loopback audio. And once you do that and play the game, hello, computer. Once you start doing that and playing the game, where'd it go? There it goes. And actually, no, let me go all the way back here. Way buried down deep is my desktop. Oh, that was what I wanted. There's Angry Bots. There's the game. The directions say something about movie function. Movie options? Movie options? Movie function. I'm not sure where that's referred to. Mute audio sources. Loopback audio. Not sure what that referred to. Oh, options. Yeah, that's the options. That's what this is. QuickTime. That's what this little down arrow is next to the recording. Right here. That shows your options. Okay, so now that I have QuickTime, and I have it set to loopback, and I go to my game, and I play my game. Let's see if this actually works. There it goes. You can actually hear or see the meters bouncing up and down here. That way you know the actual audio recording is happening. Let me just see something here. When you say you don't have this down arrow right in here, oh, I didn't have a Dropbox. I don't know. I've never seen QuickTime without having those audio options there. Yeah, send me a screenshot if you're having that issue. So, all right, once we do a new screen recording, that's where you set the movie options, is that down arrow right there, right next to the record button. Set it to loopback audio. You should see the meters moving. You can either do a full screen recording, or you can do just like click and drag only over the window, whichever works best for you. You probably want to just do it over the window so it doesn't include your desktop. Then what I'm actually interested in. The content of the video is pretty much up to you. I am really grading you on the process. That's the part I'm interested in. The fact that you've done this video recording means that you've created the music, created the sound effects. We had the opportunity for peer review. Yeah, you can revise and change anything after feedback. You implemented it into the game. You tested it out, make sure it worked. You then did a video capture, and that video capture represents that entire process. What you actually capture, how you play the game, that part's really more up to you. What do you want to show off? How do you want to show off your music working? I'm not going to count every single music file or every single sound effect because I know that you don't ultimately have control over it. Now, I'm listening for most of them, but like there's you have three intros, three main loops, three endings. There's maybe a chance that you can't get that third ending to play. You can get 7 or 8 of the 9 files to play, but that last file doesn't play, and for whatever reason, it's just randomly chosen. So we don't want these videos to go on forever. The instructions say no more than 2 minutes, and so so if you don't get all of the sounds captured, that's fine. Just making sure that you're showing off your game in its best light. You can work between windowed mode and full screen mode. If you when you launch the game, you've probably seen these options here. Windowed means that it'll be in a window. Uncheck this and it will be full screen. Most of the time you can use the default settings. They'll work just fine for you. Then you hit record. You play through the game in the best way that showcases your music. Make sure to demonstrate all the music and sound design. Don't just stand there, basically. Video capture should be no longer than 2 minutes. Actually, that points out something else. Don't necessarily play the game like you're playing to win or beat it. Because sometimes I see videos where it starts and they do well all the way through. They never die, and then the video ends. So I never see any of the endings. Or they only die once. And you only hear one of the intros and endings. So watch out for that. Die a couple of times. Trigger all the sounds that you can, even both in Angry Bots and in 2D Platformer. Quit the game. Stop the recording. Name it according to the assignment. And then please, please, please watch the video. If any... it says here 60 seconds. No, if they're within 60 seconds, that's fine. I'm just worried about things that go on for 3 or 4 or 5 minutes long. So please watch the video, because if anything, if anybody has any issues or gets any points taken off, it's typically because they didn't watch the video. Either it's completely silent, or they're recording from the internal microphone, and you hear them kind of clicking around in the background, and sometimes you hear their dog barking or their family in the background. Yeah, just use Loopback to record everything digitally, and double check the video before you send it off. Other optional tips: clear off your desktop if you're incorporating the desktop in the video. You're doing a full screen recording, then you want to make sure it's just as clean and tidy as possible. You might want to hide the dock. You just don't want any other random stuff to get in the way and have people judging you on the content of your desktop or your dock. If you can try recording in a higher resolution. But if the video kind of skips around, or you're having any issues making the capture work, you can also try a lower resolution recording overall. You're going to post up the videos on YouTube and then submit those. You're going to submit those to the 2D platform. To the composition description assignments. So this assignment really isn't uh, like all that involved once you get everything up and working. Once the technical side is worked out, getting loopback to work, getting the video capture to work, um, then it's really just playing the game and showing it off. So make sure everything's set up properly, do the video captures, and then you'll be on to the composition descriptions. So that's final game capture. Share your final game captures. There is another assignment that's just a discussion post for everybody to post up their work so everybody in the class can check out the final version of it. It's always good to see everybody else's hard work there and check out yours compared to everybody else's. So there are the two kind of main projects here, or the main submissions or assignments in week 4 are the 10 question composition descriptions. And these are set up as a test, but they aren't a study for it test because you have all the answers. They are 10 questions on your composition. And so you'll just give me information. They're basically ways that I can collect information and get a summary of your projects. So the first one here, provide a YouTube link to your 2D platformer game video. So the video that you created in the final capture, you uploaded it to YouTube, post up that YouTube link here, and please make sure that it is set to public. Its next sentence here says, a missing YouTube video or a missing audio track renders the whole submission ungradable and will receive a 0 for the whole assignment. If I don't have the video, if I can't watch the final version of it, then I can't grade it. So that also goes with the videos being private, which means I'll reply back to you and say, hey, make sure that these aren't private so I can actually not give you a 0. So double check it. The best way I always do this is go into incognito mode in your browser and try to log in or try to access that video link. If it works in here, then it's going to work on my side. A lot of people say, hey, it works just fine on my computer. And that's true because you're logged in on your computer on YouTube. So make sure, or log out of YouTube and check the links. Okay. Next, session screenshot. Give me a screenshot of your DAW session of the actual, like the production session, the MIDI and the composition. It doesn't matter which DAW you used for the compositions. Just like to give get a view of everybody's kind of workflow here. Melody and harmony. What key is your composition in? What scales and modes did you use for the melody? What's your chord progression? Give me information about the melodic and harmonic approach that you used. Rhythm. What is the tempo of your composition? What is your time signature? Just so I can get some basic rhythmic information. List the instrumentation that you used in the intro, the main loop, and the ending cues. Name the synths and sample library sources for all tracks. And if it's different in different cues, then list out different instrumentation. Please give me the sources of the instruments too, not just the fact that sometimes I used an electric piano, and I used a drum kit, and I used a trumpet. And I think, well, yes, I can hear that you used all 3 of those instruments and know what they sound like, but I have no clue where you got them from and how they were created. So think about it as if you had to tell somebody else how to build your session. Like if you just sent them MIDI and they needed to load up the instruments, or you sent them a DAW session, they need to know what instruments they need to have so that they can work on it on their computer. Intro cues. Provide screenshots of the bounced audio from your 3 intro files. Re-import your bounced intro files back into a Logic session. Double check them, look at the waveforms, listen to them, double check their naming, make sure that they are formatted properly. take a screenshot of all three of them and upload it here. Same thing for your main loops. Make sure, listen to them, look at the mix, look at the file names, make sure they loop properly, just make sure everything is formatted correctly. The ending cues, take a screenshot of all three of those. Ending cue audio needs to reach silence, so make sure that they all hit silence before the file gets cut off. Then you will order all of your files. You have intro 1 to main loop 2 to ending 3. Basically, this just rearranges everything. Intro 1 to main loop 2 to ending 3. Then it goes intro 2 to main loop 3 to ending 1. Intro 3 to main loop 1 to ending 2. And it kind of lists them all out there. Just basically put them all back to back in different combinations so that, and then comment. There's a second question here that says, listen to each track and how the music transitions from one cue to the next. Describe what you hear. Does the intensity of the music build up? Are the same instruments heard through all the different cues? Just provide me information and a kind of insight to your composition. And then provide a mix screenshot. You will take play through kind of the loudest portion of your mix and give me a screenshot showing both peak and RMS, so I can get a sense of the average level and the peak level. Your Angry Bots composition description is very much the similar setup. You'll provide the video capture, the screenshot of your session, give me information about the melody, harmony, and rhythm, information about the instruments you used along with their sources, then screenshots of your ambient cue, your 3 action cues, your 3 stinger files, layer them all together and comment about how do they play together, any clashing rhythms or harmonies, and then you'll provide a screenshot at the end. 10 questions that summarize your compositions. Probably should make sure you get the video captures done earlier in the week. Gives you time to finish out all of the information on these. All right, that should be most everything. Let's see, I moved away from the slides here. So final game capture, 2D platformer game composition description, Angry Bots composition description. That should round it out. So again, we listened to submissions from week 3. We'll watch some videos from Angry Bots and also listen to some chiptune compositions. Then talked about your final video capture and the composition descriptions here. Oh, and also went through a couple of wise troubleshooting tips. If you have any questions, I'll stick around towards the end of class here and can answer any questions you might have. And if you're watching this on the archive, send me a message if you already haven't. And yeah, we can also work there. All right. Thank you very much, and I will see you next time.